What's poppin', Big Headed fam? You have just been tuned in with your boy Gotti. Thank you for rocking with me on another one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That's like and subscribe. All right. On today's episode, we finna be going over the story of my boy Hotboy Banks. Basically, he out of Stockton and he's in Pelican Bay right now, serving a life without the possibility of parole sentence for a murder that was allegedly committed. Okay, so let's break this down. During the evening of September 10th, 2010, the defendant and his friends, Informant 1 and Informant 2, drove around in Informant 1's two-door Buick Regal. The defendant had his gun on his lap. The gun looked like the gun Informant 1 saw the defendant holding when he made a YouTube video at Informant 1's house. As Informant 2 drove around with Informant 1 in the front passenger and the defendant in the back seat, they eventually stopped and picked up the victim and an unknown female, who both rode in the back seat with the defendant. The victim was wearing a heavy gold chain. The defendant wore a long red shirt along with dark-colored pants. He did not wear a hat. Informant 1 wore short sleeves, black shirt with dark pants and a hat. And Informant 2 wore a black and white sweater. Informant 1 lost his phone and he reportedly asked the victim about it. The group then arrived at an apartment complex where everyone except Informant 1 and Informant 2 got out of the car. As the victim was going into the apartment, Informant 2 asked about the phone. The victim went to the driver's side of the car and bent down to speak to Informant 2. The defendant, who was about 3 feet behind the victim, shot the victim in the head. He stood over the victim who had fallen on the ground and took the gold chain from the victim's neck. The defendant then got into the car through the driver's side door and told Informant 2 to drive away. He also said, "I just smacked him and I have 2 chains now." Informant 2 saw the gun in the possession of the defendant right after the shooting, and so did Informant 1. Informant 3 was at the apartment complex and heard a gunshot. When he looked outside, he saw a short, skinny, light-complected male about 18 years old with dark pants, no hat, and a short-sleeved red shirt standing over the victim. The defendant was the only red shirt in the group, but it was long-sleeved. Other than the length of the sleeves, the defendant's shirt fit Informant 3's description. The next day, the defendant gave a heavy gold chain to Informant 4 and had her pawn it for him. She received $2,800 for the chain and gave him the money. An investigation of the murder scene revealed no casing from a bullet, which is consistent with the use of a revolver because the casing stays inside the gun. The bullet recovered from the victim's head was a .38 caliber bullet, most likely fired from a .357 Magnum or a .38 Special, which are revolver calibers. Talking to his stepfather's best friend, the defendant's uncle, later the defendant denied being at the location where the victim was shot. He also lied to a detective, saying he was not at the murder scene. The defendant told Informant number 4 if she told anyone that he had her sell the chain, she had something coming. While in custody, the defendant saw Informant number 4 and made a motion simulating zippers across his lips. He also threatened her and told her not to talk. At the trial, the defendant admitted he was at the murder scene, but claimed Informant number 1 got out of the car, came around the driver's side, and shot the victim in the head and got back in the car. A jury convicted the defendant of first-degree murder with the true findings that the defendant discharged a firearm causing death, with special circumstance that the murder was committed during the commission of a robbery, and robbery with the true finding that the defendant discharged a firearm causing death. The trial court sentenced the defendant to life without the possibility of parole for the special circumstance of murder, plus 25 years to life for the discharge enhancement. The court also sentenced the defendant to the upper term of 5 years for the robbery conviction, plus 25 years to life for the discharge enhancement, but the court stayed the sentence for the robbery under Section 654. This is the true story of my boy Hotboy Banks, man. If y'all like what y'all heard, man, if y'all like these true crime stories, y'all let me know in the comments, man. I'm finna be dropping a couple more of these, man. You know, true crime stories. We ain't giving up no names, you know, because everybody fighting appeals, man. But until the next one, man, the only way is up, man. Thank you for rocking with me on another one, man.